Now, the program to help you and your family get fit and stay fit with a biblical foundation without a one-size-fits-all plan. It's Faith Family Fitness with your host, Full Armor Sports and national champion coach, Jason Lupo.
This is Faith Family Fitness Freedom on 100.7 The Word. I'm Jason Lupo, sitting here with my co-host, Aaron Lujan.
What's up, man?
And we are here with a very special guest, Matt Allner. Matt Allner was one of the number one recruits for NASA and their NASA teacher program, but he is here to actually talk to us about something going on in our local community. Matt, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Jason. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about who you are. Let's start with that.
Well, I'm a business owner in the area. I was a school teacher in my first major career out of college. I was a school teacher. I taught in the public school system for 17 years. Had the privilege in teaching in 3 different states, 5 different school districts, 2 out here in Colorado, District 2 and District 20. Come from a Midwest family, was raised with the love of country, love of family, love of God. We're a very religious family. Went to church on Sundays, a lot of us as a family, and just very tight, close-knit growing up. A lot of members, a lot of the men in our family were military, and others were teachers, and others were salesmen, and those were pretty much the 3 careers of everyone in the family. So kind of suits me well for the fight, for the education, and for the ability to communicate and sell ideas to people. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
So defending youth has been one of the top priorities of this show. We've talked about the issues in our local community with the LGBTQ issues, with the issue down at Vanguard High School with freedom of speech and youth. It is a constant prevalent topic in our society. And you are here today to talk to us about, number one, what's going on in one of our school districts, but number 2, what we can do about it and what you're going to do about it and what you're trying to bring other people in to understand about our constitutional rights and how we can fight this. So tell us a little bit about what the issue is and why you're here.
So the issue currently is up in the district where I live. That's what was initially brought. I was aware of issues that were going on a bit in other districts, but the district where I'm at is up in District 38 in Monument. The particular issue where this started is at my daughter's high school, which is Lewis Palmer High School. We've been very happy with the high school for the most part over the years. We've graduated 2 of our oldest from the school. We've been very happy with the vast majority of the teachers and some of the coaches and extracurricular activities, the leaders that have been involved there. There was an issue that came up 4 years ago. I won't get into that today, but it is important because it's a backdrop story to understanding some of the things I'm pushing back against now again. So the issue that arose with my daughter was an issue that involved some things in the classroom, and it just it prompted me to kind of understand the issue a little bit more. But as I was digging into that issue and paid attention and just happened to notice in an email that had come from her teacher, there was the use of pronouns, which made me start digging a little deeper and kind of wanting to know from my daughter if there was discussions about this in class and things. And there wasn't, from what she had told me, in fairness to the teacher. But what she did tell me was that there was a transgender flag up in the classroom. And that's what started making me a little bit more irritated as a parent, that they're trying to normalize and allow or push some form of the ideology in the schools. To what other degrees it was going on in other classrooms, I was unaware, and my daughter had said she hadn't seen any others in her classes. So, the first step for me was to call the district office and talk to head of HR, find out a little bit about, 1, were they aware that this was going on? And the answer was yes. 2, were they allowing it to go on? And the answer was yes, that I was told. Third question was, is there a board policy that prevents it or allows it to go on? And they said no. And then my question was, well, then why are you allowing it to happen? And then the conversation kind of went down into this intricate rabbit hole of verbiage where, First Amendment rights and Title IX and all these other things, where if you actually look at both of those 2 things, in that is also the right for freedom of religion. And that's where this interesting discussion is going, is freedom of speech versus freedom of religion. It's not a versus. They're both entitled in the same entities where we're protected in those rights. And so my job at that point was to set the record straight on the fact that freedom of speech rights do have consequences, and we have to understand when they can be used lawfully in private versus public, and what those jurisdictions are as far as where the federal government can step in, because you can't have a conflict within the same amendment and within Title IX on two rights that are clashing, and it's really an interpretation and understanding. And so I'm educating the county and the public and people that are listening on what exactly it is that it's in our state constitution about religious freedom, and that's what I'm hoping to share today.
That's awesome. We're going to take a brief time out. When we come back, we're going to talk about what we can do on our parts to fight back against some of this woke ideology. Hang with us for 60 seconds.
Full Armor Sports Teams has a new facility for after-school youth programs. It's located at 2380 Montebello near North Academy and Union, with 2 pools for swim lessons and swim teams, a weight room for powerlifting, conditioning, and more. Full Armor Sports Teams is a Christ-centered and family-oriented organization bringing the youth of Colorado Springs together. For more info on after-school and homeschool programs, go to fullarmorsportsteams.com or call 719-629-SWIM.
Welcome back to Faith, Family, Fitness, Freedom on 100.7 The Word. I'm Jason Lupo, joined here today with my co-host Aaron Lujan and our very special guest Matt Allner, who is bringing to us some information on how to fight back against some of this LGBTQ, transgender stuff happening within our classrooms in El Paso County and around the country. And we've seen this take place more and more and more. And it's become commonplace in our education system. There was just an article, a charter school here in Colorado Springs, a transgender teacher who was all sorts of spunk, went into the opposite gender's little kids' room, bathroom, to use it. That was just a story about a month ago. And so we're seeing that not only is it becoming more prevalent, but it's becoming even more dangerous in a lot of ways. And so Matt Allner is here telling us about an issue at his daughter's school, but now he's going to bring to us some very important information about kind of what the next step is and how we can move forward. So Matt, I'm going to give you the mic, kind of explain what you're trying to do.
Well, the first thing I want everyone to understand is I'm a man of faith. I'm not perfect. I'm trying to work on my faith each and every day. And in understanding that, my teacher, Jesus, was very patient with people. When his Father sent him here, he sent him to heal people, and he sent him to get people on the right path, and not just the people that were struggling and maybe being oppressed by their leaders, but also the scholars of the law, the Sanhedrin, those that were in charge and kind of in control. Many of you that know Scripture probably better than me know a lot of the stories where Jesus confronted the Sanhedrin. They were always trying to trap him in questions, and he was really brilliant because he's Son of God about turning those questions around with a question. And so using that format of questioning is the best way to attack this, rather than to come at people upset, losing your cool, getting yourself in potential trouble, which is what provokers like to do. That's what enemies always like to do, is provoke. In sports, it's always the second guy that gets caught, but never the one that started it, right? And so we got to be smart and wise about how we approach this. So the issue again with some of the remedy process, the first thing I did, and I think it's the right thing, is I came to the district. I came to the school and then tried to set up a meeting that was scheduled. And then eventually, once I found this other stuff and that was kind of another part of my grievance list, I went to the district, and I went in person. I went peaceful, but I was upset, and they knew it. And I told them I wanted these things removed. There was no authority given. There was no explanation of the law they were saying that protected it. I was just given the law. That was it. And it's like, well, what law? What protection? Articulate that to me, please. Because my daughter has a right of religious liberty of conscience on her opinions on religion. And that's as stated exactly in the Colorado State Constitution. So once, I was kind of getting rolled around in that conversation, I knew I had to kind of take things to a different level and bring and show them the law. We have to remember that a lot of us don't know the Constitution. I mean, if you honestly answered the question, have you read the Colorado State Constitution? I think 99% of Coloradans would say no. They maybe have heard of it, maybe read a few parts, but we've never really read it. And for my issue, I don't have to read it from beginning to end all the way through, because a lot of it doesn't even relate to schools and the issue with my daughter. But the things I need to know are the things I've brought to people in my education with them. And you can't rebut these things. I mean, they are the law of the land, and they follow the law of the land, which is our U.S. Constitution. So,
Matt, can I interject? So is the issue the teacher sent an email to the parents, and then in the email included pronouns, and in addition to that, there's a transgender flag in the classroom. So you're confronting the school district saying, why are you emailing the parents with pronouns, why are you hanging transgender flags in the classroom? Is that essentially the particular issue?
That's part of it. Students are also getting emails from their teachers as well. I want you to know teachers do have permission by board policies, and every district might be different, but most have the same policies. They can email students if it relates directly to something academic, nothing personal, but something academic. My daughter was included on all these emails. I eventually asked them to remove her from that. The other aspect of what's going on in the school, while I was in the middle of these grievances with the district, and they were getting to a point where they were starting to ignore my questions and not answer them, and just kind of giving me things that weren't related to our issue. They invited a group called PFLAG. They're a national group. It's an acronym, PFLAG, and they have a local chapter, and they're a LGBT trans supportive entity that's meant to kind of help families that are struggling with how to adapt to the transition of one of their loved ones into this realm. And so PFLAG was invited on Thursday, I believe it was April 24th or 25th, to come to my daughter's school. They set up a table out in the hallway. They were there all day. They were passing out flags. They were passing out wristbands. I have two of the things they passed out at home. My daughter let me know. She took a video of it, so I would have that, and photos that I asked her to take, so we had it. And I emailed the district and asked who gave permission for them to be there and for what reason, and I was ignored. So districts are known for doing this, but what we have to understand here is our roles. We the people, we live in a republic. The taxpayers are the people that have the power in a republic, and therefore anyone elected who takes an oath are our indentured servants. They answer to us. They need to be respectful when we've come to them respectfully, which I have. And when they're ignoring us, that's called maladministration. And there's lawful consequences for acting and behaving that way. Again, I'm trying to come at this in as peaceful way as possible. I've given the district 6 weeks to this point to remedy my situation. They're still ignoring me. They've ignored a notice that I'm going to hopefully get a chance to just briefly introduce and then let you post on your website so people can go see the notice and see a video that explains it. This is unacceptable. They are our servants. So
you've approached them in person, said, hey, I need you to fix this, right? That this is not right. And then you started a petition. You've taken those petitions, you've sent them to D38 school board, all of that. I mean, D38 school board has heard all of these things. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. They've seen it.
And we know that they've put up a giant kind of facade to drive attention away from this stuff because D38 is priding themselves on teachers carrying guns and being more protective of kids in classrooms. But at the same time, they're letting kids be entrenched in this woke ideology of transgenderism and LGBTQ stuff. And so you've sent the petitions, and now you've gone a step further. Can you kind of explain what that process is?
Yeah, so the purpose of the petition was initially just to create awareness, let people know what the issue was in my district, which is nothing that surprised a lot of people because they're aware the issue exists, but it was what's going on. And then also to get support and let the district know I'm not the only voice now that's concerned about this. And people have been concerned. It's just they haven't had a channel, a process by which to voice it properly and peaceably, that's a right that's given to us in our Colorado State Constitution. That's Article 2, Section 24, for those of you that want to know what that is. We also have in that same section and article the right to petition. So I'm doing both those things. I'm assembling the people, I'm bringing them together peaceably, and then we're coming to the district in the form of a petition. Now, the petition I knew was probably going to be ignored, and they did, which is fine. But 2 days later on Saturday, so I launched that to them on Thursday. It would have been May 11th. And then on Saturday, May 9th, Thursday, May 9th. And then on Saturday, May 11th, which was this past Saturday, I sent them a first formal notice, a lawful notice. And this takes things to a different level. Whether they understand it or their lawyer understands it isn't my issue. What they need to understand, this is a lawful document, and everything that's in there will hold up in a court of record, and it will. And because they've actually acquiesced as of last night, everything in that notice is considered truthful, and it can't be heard again in a court. So, again, I'm still giving them time to back out and acknowledge the wrong publicly, to sit down with me and write policy that will remove this from the school. 1, 2, protect the school so it can't come in again, and 3, put very strict, swift consequences with zero tolerance in place. That anyone that tries to slip this in, there's going to be no warnings. You will be removed, and that will protect our kids, at least through board policy.
So let's take a step back for 1 second. So we have a constitutional right to petition our government, including D38 school board, as part of the government, right? Elected. They go through the same process every other school board does. Let's clarify what is this lawful notice and what power does it have, and how is it different than, say, going out and suing the school board?
Well, the lawful notice keeps us out of the jurisdiction and the realm that lawyers can kind of pull us down into, where we don't understand things and the battle gets a little complicated, and we're trusting that the lawyer we hire is going to do a good job. And I believe there's a lot of good lawyers out there. I have an aunt that's a criminal attorney. I've had several friends that are different types of attorneys. I believe there's a lot of good people that get into law because they want to do the right thing and help good people and protect their rights. The issue here, as far as how the process works, is that our elected officials take an oath. That oath binds them. Our founders trapped them, whether they understand that or not. They trapped them in that oath, that they are bound contractually to not only the Constitution, but they put their hand on a Bible. I mean, they swear under penalty of perjury that they are going to do the people's business and protect our rights. When my daughter's Second Amendment rights are not being protected, and I'm being told I have to put them on hold or allow them to be infringed to allow someone else's rights of speech to come into the picture, that's a conflict of interest, and it's not accurate. It's an interpretation that allows that conflict, not a proper interpretation. So
I want to dig into what you just said, that there's a freedom of speech on behalf of the school district, specifically the teachers, and there's a freedom of religion to your daughter. If I can play devil's advocate and be a liberal parent and say, what's the big deal with the teacher emailing the students with her preferred pronouns, because that's her worldview. That's what she believes to be her truth, as they like to say. And we also believe that there are other students at the school that are struggling with transgenderism. We believe this is a real thing. And if you don't want to participate in that, then you have the right to not stop at that table, leave it alone, kick rocks. What would you say to that parent who would make that argument?
Well, to answer that, it's a great question, and it's a loaded one. We don't even know if we have enough time to get into all that, so hopefully there'll be another show where I can get deeper. But just to scratch the surface on it, if you look at Article 2, Section 4 of the Colorado State Constitution, that's our religious freedom segment, okay? If I just kind of jump into this briefly here, the free exercise and enjoyment of a religious profession and worship without discrimination shall forever hereafter be guaranteed. And no person shall be denied any civil or political right, privilege, or capacity on account of his opinions concerning religion. What that means is that my opinions versus religion are going to be probably different, a little different than yours, Jason. We can say we believe in the same God, same Jesus, but we have varying ways that we may go about how we practice that. But that's protected in the U.S. and the state constitution. That being said, that opinion can't be infringed on. And it means you can't also force my daughter or force me to say I have to allow my daughter to go to a public school institution and be subjected to things that can tempt her away from things that are godly, which is our religion, our belief. When things are consistent with the good order, which is what the words are in our state constitution. If I read further, okay, it talks about or justify practices inconsistent with the good order. God is good. The opposite of good is bad. And you could even say the opposite of good in God's realm is evil. And we know the opposite of God is Satan. So if we are justifying practices inconsistent with the good order, we're justifying practices that go against God. When we're encouraging LGBT or trans or any of the acronyms and letters that come with the acronym, those go against God, which is the good order. It's not allowed.
So we've seen this play out time and time again in Colorado. It seems for some reason Colorado has been a hotbed of this contentious dichotomy of religious freedoms and the freedoms of every other group on the face of the earth. And we saw this play out in Pine Creek back probably 7-8 years ago, where Pine Creek was sued for disallowing, I think it was a Bible study. We've seen this play out in business in Colorado. Colorado is placed at war. This idea, and by the way, to step back, Colorado's discrimination laws do not actually mention religion. It mentions the word creed. Creed is one strong held belief, right? And so we have two strong held beliefs. And so can they coexist at the same time? And how do we allow for freedom of speech without forcing somebody to change their belief and their worldview? And I think that's kind of where we've hit this head, is that the districts, the government is not allowing them to coexist. And you can go back to court cases and, Tinker versus Des Moines. Kids don't lose their rights at the schoolhouse gate. Your daughter has just the same amount of rights as a teacher or anybody else at that school to hold on to her First Amendment right of religion and of speech.
Yeah. So another loaded question.
Lots of loaded questions. I know we've got a lot of questions.
I just going to put it out there to hold Jason hostage. He's promised me a couple more shows, so we'll dive into those things later even more. But to answer your question in a nutshell, the two realms exist just fine. It's like a person that's a consensus scientist versus someone who's a wholesome, old school, legitimate scientist. Okay, the difference is they're both using science, but one is using them for political control, which is what consensus science is. It's the science of politics. And I would know, I was a scientist for 8 years funded by NASA. Science itself has laws that can't be refuted, like the laws of gravity. You can say things fall down, but it's relative to your positioning and relativity of your body to the earth. If I flip you upside down and say, now drop the paperclip, it doesn't fall down relevant to your feet. It falls down relevant to your head, which is the center of the earth. So we have to be very specific about what we're talking about here. And this is the articulation of the argument that a lot of people struggle with. I'm blessed with the fact that God brings me a lot of truth so I can articulate this stuff, because it is complicated. You can get lost in the weeds, but to address the main issue, how do I infringe, so to speak, on someone's First Amendment rights? Well, we have a right to do a lot of things. We have rights that we are told we have. There are laws that say we can't do things. Okay. And I don't want to bring too much into this, but as an example, we're not supposed to kill. Do people still kill? Of course they do. Is it against the law? Yes. But why are they doing it if it's against the law? Why aren't they stopped because there's a law? Because people can still do things. A police officer can pull us over unlawfully on the side of the road and give us a ticket that was unjustified. I love police officers. I think they do a wonderful job, but it can happen. We've seen instances where it happens. We've seen teachers do things that are wrong and unlawful. Just because we have laws doesn't stop it. What it does say is that if we do certain things, there will be consequences. Therefore, back to your question, when a person exercises their freedom of speech, they are not immune to consequences. There are consequences for certain speech in the public realm. This isn't a public school, therefore it's not a private setting. What you say in your home is in a private realm. You can attack somebody in a private setting, okay, where there's memberships and associations involved with that, vetting process to get in that involves a membership. The public and private realm are two different realms of legal jurisdiction as far as the government's ability to step in. In the public realm, the gloves are on. And you have to be understanding that you don't just have a right protected by law to go around saying whatever you want, especially when it goes against the good order, which is against things that are godly and infringe on opinions concerning religion. And I'm using those words specifically because they're in our state constitution. Okay. So that freedom of speech can't take my daughter's right away.
So it sounds to me like what you're saying is your daughter's right to freedom of religion trumps the teacher's freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, because what it's promoting is something that's not in the good order, and it is not aligned with it's aligned with removing my daughter's opinions concerning religion.
And that jumps into biblical morality as the foundation of
Absolutely.
A civic society, which is an incredibly interesting topic, Christian nationalism, which we need to have a conversation about.
Absolutely.
So we've had a lot of good conversation. We've run out of time.
Yeah.
So I do promise that we are going to continue this conversation. As of now, though, if you want to see this lawful notice that was given to the D38 school board and our elected leadership all throughout the country, go to faithfamilyfit.org. You will also find a YouTube video link on faithfamilyfit.org with Matt Allner explaining this process of sending out the lawful notice. If you want to follow him on Twitter, at Allner Matt, ALLNER Matt, and you can also find him on YouTube, Matt Allner 4873. All of this is also available on my website, faithfamilyfit.org. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Saturday at 9 a.m.
This has been Faith Family Fitness with Coach Jason Lupo of Full Armor Sports Teams of Colorado Springs. Join him at the same time next week for Faith Family Fitness on the Word 100.7.